Hello, hello. Oops. Testing. Can you hear me,
Hey,
Brian?
I can hear you, Andy. Your camera, there you go.
Oh,
Camera's on now.
finally. That is fantastic. Thank you.
It is
Thank you for your
frozen.
patience.
Yep,
Oh, it's
it's a
frozen.
little bit choppy, but we can certainly make it work.
Okay, cool. Yes, it does seem a little bit frozen. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yep, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. But the camera might be a little bit frozen.
No problem. We'll do some screen sharing here anyways.
Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, so a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. This is Andrew, and we have Brian dialing in from the US, from Santiment, and we appreciate you guys joining us. Look, this week will be a short one, and we are looking at what's happening in the market. Bitcoin hit a high of 70, close to 74,000, and then it dipped a bit, and the market's a little bit concerned. So let's look at some on-chain metrics from Santiment, and Brian will walk us through that and see what's going on. Over to you, Brian.
Absolutely. Yeah, you bet, Andy. I'll share my screen here. We definitely have seen, as you've mentioned, a bit of negative sentiment. This is the landscape over the past 30 days for the top 100 or so market cap assets. You can see lots and lots of bleeding. Bitcoin down 14%, currently sitting at about 61.5K at the time of this recording. Ethereum down almost 20%, just dipped back down below 3K once again. It's been kind of teasing back and forth around this range for a while. And then you can see Dogecoin really hemorrhaging fast, down 27.5% in the past 30 days. Aptos, one of the biggest droppers, down almost 40. And same with Stacks here, really has been struggling. If I go to my watch list page, we're going to give that just a moment, and we're going to actually see by sector how they've each been doing over the past week, because there has been, at least recently, a bit more of a rebound, and then kind of a ranging period in the last 5 days or so. But you can see on a 7-day time scale, meme coins have actually been one of the best returners, up almost 12% in total market cap between the top 50 that we're tracking. Social is up pretty considerably. Real world assets doing quite well. DeFi, AI, and big data. We're still seeing a few assets standing out, like Render. They've been on a big run. Even today, once again, have gone on a nice mini surge. But overall, you can click on any of these and you can actually see, how they've returned. Over the past 7 days, it looks pretty good. But if we go to 30 days, not so good. Render, as I mentioned, let me find it. It's one I've been keeping a close eye on. Where is Render? It's not showing here right now. It's okay. My point is, I'll just show it on the chart really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Other than a few specific assets, most assets have really been struggling as of late. Oh, that's strange. Well, Render actually may not be on our charts right now, so we'll just ignore that. I'm not sure why that is. But I
That's all
wanted to
right.
show some other things as well. One being, of course, how the whales and sharks have been doing. We'll keep this really short. Overall, they have been taking some profit, which does explain some of the price drop, but it hasn't been significant. They've dropped over the past 5 weeks about 34K Bitcoin, but before that, they had accumulated 217,000 Bitcoin. So it's a pretty minor drop, all things considered, and really not something I'm overly concerned about. I think that right now we're seeing that the sentiment is a bit overly panicked compared to what the metrics are showing, which are pretty neutral. You can see the supply and exchanges was going very slightly up represented by this green line here. And then over the past week, once we turn to May, that trend turned back down. So that's not too much of a concern. Funding rate, it's been mostly neutral. You see here on Deribit, we're actually starting to see some longs form. That's not ideal. We want to actually see more shorting going on. But it's mostly flat. I mean, no real anomalies like we saw way back prior to the all-time high. If you guys remember, when Andy and I spoke back in March, we were pointing out all of the crazy longs that were going on. And obviously, when these big divergences happen and longs are paying shorts just to bet in favor of the market, that greatly increases the likelihood of a big correction like this. So we're actually rooting to see more shorts show up, kind of like what we saw about a week ago. You see these big short lines show up right before they got liquidated, and we had this decent sized green candle. Well, now we're fading again, and traders really don't know what to do. They're kind of sitting on their hands and waiting for a big move in one direction at this point. Also, check out the total amount of holders, how they've kind of flattened out. Historically, they're always rising a little bit. There's way more non-empty wallets being created on a daily basis than there are being liquidated on a daily basis, which is why this line tends to rise over time. But during these periods of flatness, that's actually a sign of fear and indecision. And that can often, as we saw back here in January, lead to big run-ups in price. So that's something we're keeping an eye on right now. I would be interested if this line starts to actually decline like we saw in late January. That would be a great sign, because we want to see traders panicking right now. We want to see them selling off their bags and the whales and sharks scooping them up, because that usually foreshadows price rebounds. And I think a lot of us are kind of crossing our fingers that we see 70K again sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just wondering whether, the ETFs have, potentially a part to play in this as well. Whether, so from the ETF side, whether, they have certain set cut losses or whatever, and then that's kind of perhaps potentially moving the price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen that the inflows and outflows have kind of flattened out a bit. There's still plenty of volume, billions of dollars per day, but there's certainly not as much money flowing in as we saw during those first 2 months of hype. It's kind of faded down, and there's even been a few days where there's more outflow than inflow. So they're still very active, but it's not a whole bunch of new money moving in like we would be hoping for, because that would, of course, be a great supplement that we could look to help boost prices without so much activity happening on chain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then speaking of on chain, we can look at something like MVRV, which is showing that the 30-day MVRV is a little below zero. So buying in or adding to your position right now, you'd be doing so historically at less risk than average on the short-term scale. But on the long-term scale, there's still a bit of overheated signal going on here, indicating average traders who have been active in the last 365 days are up an average of 24% on their money. Ideally, we want to be buying when both of these lines are below zero. So it's more of like a neutral signal right now. You can gamble a bit on the shorter term time scale, but long term, this is still pointing to us needing to see a bit more of a correction here, or at least a flattening out period. And then a couple insights that we posted over the past week. This one's interesting. Just today, we noticed there was a pretty big boost in 1K to 10K wallet holdings. This is kind of the largest tier of whales before we get into those 10K plus BTC exchange addresses. Yes, there are plenty of exchange addresses mixed in here as well, but we've done a little bit of testing to find that this is kind of the largest tier where we typically see actual self-custody holders moving around coins and impacting prices. And there is quite a bit of correlation between this tier and what happens with Bitcoin's price. So good to see that we're seeing a nice big boost for the first time in really a couple of weeks. It's rebounded back to the same level as April 27th. So a little 2-week high there is a good sign that we could see a mini rebound in the near future. You can see we mentioned AI and big data. Also check this out. One thing that we've been increasingly looking at is the RSI. Let me open this article really quick. And I'm just going to go to the template. RSI. So you can see a whole lot of lines here. I'm just going to go to the last week to make it simple. Zoom in on Bitcoin's price. So anything above 50 means that there's a little bit more risk than average. Anything below 50, then you've got less risk than average. So right here down at the bottom, this is Shiba, which is right now really struggling. It could end up being a potential rebounder if Bitcoin starts to stable out. On the other hand, Toncoin has been on a massive run. It's really grown its market cap significantly here in 2024 as one of the best performers. So not surprisingly, it's a little bit overheated compared to everything else. Another way you can look at whether things are overheated or underheated is looking at our MVRV sand sheets model. This is showing the market value to realized value. And all these high green bars are indicating that it's significantly underbought, that respective asset. Most of them are showing semi-underbought to underbought signals right now, which is a great sign. Altcoins, as we saw on the 30-day scale, have really been struggling. So it doesn't guarantee that we're about to see this big bounce, but historically, if you were to say dollar cost average a little bit at this spot, it certainly wouldn't be the worst idea, considering we're mathematically in a spot where average traders have taken big deficits and losses on these assets. So that's kind of where we're standing from a math / on-chain perspective right now, Andy.
Yep. I mean, MVRV is one of my favorite metrics on sentiment. I actually have a question. So this is a question about the MVRV metric that is for Bitcoin. So as I understand it, it scans all the addresses with Bitcoin balances in them, and then tags them at their last transfer in price. Yeah.
Right. So any
Yeah.
wallet that has been active,
Yep.
and within a given time frame. So if we're looking at the 30-day
Okay.
time frame, if it has made at least one transfer in during that time,
Yes.
it's measuring the return based on when that happened within the 30 days. If it didn't
Yep.
happen within 30 days, it's ineligible and isn't counted. And it
Okay.
basically measures, let's say they moved in Bitcoin 15 days ago, it's measuring what their percentage is based on the current price versus the price they received that Bitcoin 15 days ago.
Okay. Yep. Now that clears things up. So if it's a 30-day MVRV that we're looking at, then it's only for the last 30 days. If it's 365, then it's only for the last year or
and
so.
blending
Okay.
all of those wallets that have gotten inflows in the past 30 or past 90 days.
Okay.
Come up with an average percentage. Exactly.
Cool. Okay. Now that gives a lot of clarity. Thank you. So this would exclude, like Satoshi's wallets, and all those, because they haven't
If
been
they've
active
been
for a
dormant
long
for a
time.
decade,
Yeah.
exactly. Then they're not active wallets in the past 30 days.
Cool. Very cool.
Right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So sometimes MVRV, you might just say, oh, well, Bitcoin's up 12% in the past 30 days. Shouldn't the MVRV be 12 or plus 12% for 30-day holders? No, because a lot of people buy at the tops, sell at the bottoms, make unoptimal moves. and usually the MVRV is trailing what the actual time frame is because of all of their non-perfect plays that they're making in the markets over time.
Yep. Yep. And with the, say for example, the 30-day MVRV, it's effectively a moving window, isn't it? So tomorrow we'll look back 30 days from tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow we'll look back 30 days from the day after tomorrow. So if you were at the tail end, say today we look at 30 days today, and you didn't move it, you didn't, there was no movement in that wallet. 2 days from now, it won't be included in the MVRV calculation.
Yeah,
30-day MVRV.
that is correct. The way you're describing it. Yep.
Cool. Good. I hope the audience can pick that up and learn a bit more about this metric.
Yeah, and in case the math is not something you want to understand perfectly, that's completely fine. The entire point of MVRV is it's an easy way to find what those highs and lows actually are. When you hear, you should buy low and sell high, well, it's pretty hard if you just look at a random point on Santiment's charts and see the price over the last 3 years. What's a high and what's a low? But if you look at a certain time frame, we like to blend different time frames together. So like this one is a midterm divergence model where it averages out all of the time frames of 30-day, 90-day, and 180-day MVRVs, puts it all together based on what a regular 30-day, 90-day, and 180-day return would be, and then tells us quite simply whether it's in an underbought or an overbought range. And obviously, with markets correcting pretty significantly over the past almost 2 months now, March 14th was the all-time high, you're going to see most of these being underbought because altcoins have really shed a lot since that time. Bitcoin has itself, but altcoins have on average a lot more than Bitcoin. So that would explain why this model is showing so many suggestive buy signals here.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, last but not least, I can show some of the social trends. Obviously, a big news story that I'm sure you've heard yourself, Andy, is that FTX is paying back all of the claimants, supposedly. So, or at least 98% of its creditors, up to 118% of their claims in cash. I guess that means they're actually paying a bit of interest or something. I'm not an expert on that, but either way, FTX is by far the most trending topic over the past 24 hours, as creditors, which is the number 2 topic, are also very interested in what's going on there. So I think that's a great sign for crypto. The fact that, traders and hodlers can still feel confident holding their money on exchanges. Obviously, they would not want to do that over again and feel like they lost all their money for the past 2 years or year and a half since FTX collapsed. But at the very least, it appears as though the right result is happening, and that should be a slight vote of confidence that would keep people trusting crypto for the long term. And that's an important thing.
That is it's actually, it's good for the I guess the psyche of the market. It helps people restore confidence in crypto. Already crypto's got a pretty bad connotation attached to it. And just just to note, what I found is the regulator here in Malaysia, they refer to crypto as digital assets, and that may be a term to kind of, I don't know, veer away from using the term crypto. Maybe they feel that crypto has some negativity or some negative connotation attached to it, and so it's maybe a bit of a rebranding exercise to kind of legitimize it and call that digital asset. So yeah, that's something to share.
Totally. Yeah, I'm very interested to hear how other countries are dealing with this stuff. another scandal that I'm seeing on the trending tokens tab here, when I go to the social dashboard and I click trending coins, Monero is in the news. It looks like local Monero, which is a large peer-to-peer centralized platform for trading XMR, it's sunsetting because of the big global crackdown on privacy-focused tokens right now. And XMR is obviously the most notable one. So perhaps there might be some long-term concerns about XMR if that's an asset in your portfolio. Sometimes negative sentiment can lead to positive results. You know, we see prices actually going up right now. That often happens with kind of a sell the rumor, buy the news type of situation. But we will see how that goes. And then three other big caps, XRP with some new stuff. The SEC is labeling its new planned stablecoin as an unregistered crypto asset. So they're back in the SEC's crossfire right now. Ethereum, as there's news about the Ethereum Foundation allegedly dumping 1,000 ETH. And of course, Bitcoin is starting to get a bit more traction right now. It's not always on our top 10 list unless it's getting some increases in discussion. And right now, there's quite a bit related to what looks to be some sort of bot. And it has something to do with Reddit. I would encourage you guys to just check out the trending tokens page and read more about all of these stories going on. And there's always 10 coins listed here that have bullish summaries, bearish summaries, and an overall summary with the connected words in relation to them. And it's one of my favorite places to go and kind of collect the news in an unbiased mathematical kind of format.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So yeah, look, thanks for sharing today, Brian. I think we'll probably it'll be a short session today, just to have a quick update on what's been happening in the market, what's going on. Should we be worried? And just generally what's happening on chain, and also what's being discussed. So no, thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
For
sure
this one.
thing.
Yeah,
Always a pleasure catching up with you, Andy. And we'll do
as
a
always.
extra longer one next month, perhaps, to make up for it.
Absolutely, yeah, and this time, it's actually my fault. I'm having some technical difficulties, and you, the viewers, you could probably see that my face seems to be not moving at all as I'm speaking to you. So,
I thought you were just sharpening up your ventriloquism myself, just talking without moving. It's impressive.
yeah, thank you. But yeah, absolutely. I hope to not have any more. Any more technical difficulties later. But yes, thank you once again, Brian, and thank you for adjusting the time for this call. Really appreciate that.
Nah, no problem at all. Always great catching up.
All right, so for those for the audience out there, look, stay safe, and I hope to see you guys next month. And once again, thank you, Brian, for jumping on today.
Thanks, Andy. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.